Scientists just uncovered dinosaur footprints where they should have never been, and some say humans walked right beside them. Let's go to Glen Rose, Texas, a sleepy town that holds one of the most puzzling stories in paleontology. Beneath the shallow waters of the Paluxy River lies a prehistoric trail that has sparked both scientific fascination and whispers of controversy. We're talking about some of the clearest dinosaur tracks ever found, pressed into limestone over 100 million years ago. But that's not the only reason this site has drawn international attention. Back in the 1930s, people started noticing something strange. Right alongside those three-toed dinosaur prints, likely left by a carnivorous theropod, were shapes that looked suspiciously human. Not clawed or splayed or distorted, but footprints, with heels and toes. Cue the conspiracy theories. Some swore this was proof that humans and dinosaurs walked the earth together. Others claimed it was a hoax, erosion, or misidentification. To this day, the debate pops up in documentaries and online forums. And while science has moved on to more grounded explanations, like overlapping prints and the quirks of sediment, that mystery still hangs in the air like Texas heat. It's a time capsule. The tracks don't just show us who was here, they show us how they moved. You can trace the steps of a predator chasing prey, or a herd sticking close in what was once a muddy riverbed. Some prints are deep and crisp, while others barely mark the surface, clues to weight, speed, and direction. It's not just science, it's storytelling carved into stone. The Paluxy tracks even helped researchers rethink how some dinosaurs walked. The spacing and toe angles suggest surprising agility, especially for species we once thought of as lumbering. They weren't just big, they were fast, alert, and alive in ways we're still piecing together. So, were there really human tracks? Probably not. But what is real are the prints of creatures that ruled this land long before us, frozen mid-stride like a Polaroid from another world. And in a way, that's even more thrilling. From the muddy plains of Texas, we move west into Utah, where things get sharper, leaner, and a little more dangerous. At first glance, the dinosaur tracks found here might look ordinary, even crude. But follow their rhythm, the spacing, the depth, and suddenly, a picture forms. This wasn't some slow-moving giant, it was a predator, fast and calculated. The three-toed imprints carved into the Navajo sandstone belonged to a large theropod, likely a megalosaur or a closely related carnivore. Each step stretches several feet apart with claw marks at the tips as if frozen in the act of pursuit. These tracks aren't scattered randomly. They follow a pattern, like a stalker following something unseen, maintaining a straight line with tight precision. The most intriguing part? Some prints show slight sliding in the toes, like the animal was making sharp turns or braking quickly, suggesting it was either chasing prey or dodging an obstacle. This wasn't just walking, it was a hunt. Utah has yielded hundreds of such prints in sites like Johnson Farm and Copper Ridge, but it's the details that thrill scientists. Impressions left behind by pads, scrapes in the rock suggesting tail brushes, and even pressure deformations beneath the footprint that reveal muscle weight and movement. That's the kind of data no fossil skeleton can provide. It's one thing to know what a dinosaur looked like, it's another to know how it moved through its world. These prints suggest that the predators of Jurassic Utah were highly mobile, surprisingly agile, and perhaps most fascinating of all, strategic in how they moved through space. You're not just looking at feet in rock, you're looking at a decision frozen in time. Utah's sharp prints fade into the soft riverbeds of Glen Rose, Texas again. But this time, we focus on a site that's more complete, more varied, and deeply revealing. The tracks found here aren't just numerous, they're layered like a prehistoric traffic report. There are paths of massive sauropods wading through mud, smaller theropods darting between them, an occasional overlap that tells us something remarkable. Different species were moving through the same place at the same time. These prints date back 113 million years, preserved in what used to be the silty banks of a shallow tropical lagoon. Unlike many fossil sites that are interrupted by time or erosion, Glen Rose offers continuous trackways, trails that stretch for over 100 feet without a break. That kind of preservation gives researchers something rare, a multi-minute snapshot, not just a footprint. Some sauropod prints here are over 3 feet across, but even more fascinating are the subtle details. You can see the squish of the heel, the drag of the toes, and even the shifting of the animal's weight as it moved. And then, crisscrossing those massive impressions are much smaller, sharper prints, perhaps from a predatory dinosaur tailing the herd from a distance, careful not to be seen. The tension between predator and prey is locked into the sediment. Even the depth of the footprints tells us more than expected. Deeper impressions often correlate with wetter ground, and by analyzing the soil layers, scientists have pieced together the likely season, weather, and even the dinosaur's speed. These aren't just prints. They're a prehistoric footprint logbook, and every detail pushes us closer to understanding how dinosaurs really lived, not just how they died. Next, we head south, way south, to Bolivia, where something massive left its mark high on a cliffside. What kind of animal could leave a single footprint the size of a bathtub? Let's find out. Tucked into the cliffs near Sucre, Bolivia, lies a wall that seems ordinary, until you step closer. Then suddenly, you realize it's not a wall at all. It's a vertical canvas of history, nearly 300 feet tall and stretching more than a quarter mile. This is Cal Orco, one of the most impressive fossil track sites ever uncovered, and somewhere on this slope lies something that still leaves scientists speechless. A dinosaur footprint measuring over 3 feet wide, the largest of its kind ever recorded. This print likely belonged to a titanosaur, one of the biggest animals to ever walk the earth. But what makes it even more jaw-dropping is where it was found, embedded in a near-vertical slab of limestone. Of course, when the tracks were made, the ground was flat. Millions of years of tectonic activity slowly pushed the slab upward, preserving these steps at an angle that now towers over visitors. It's like time itself got tilted. The track isn't alone. Over 12,000 individual footprints have been documented at Cal Orco from at least 8 different species. What makes this site especially valuable is its density. Some areas show over 500 steps in one sequence, providing clear evidence of how these animals moved, turned, and even traveled in groups. And that giant titanosaur print, it's not a one-off. The same individual may have left an entire trail, tracing a long, slow journey across soft ground that hardened like concrete under ancient sun. Paleontologists analyze not only the shape but the spacing of the prints. A stride this long suggests a creature over 80 feet in length, possibly weighing close to 50 tons. But it wasn't just big, it was steady. The depth of the impression suggests this dinosaur walked with careful, deliberate steps, avoiding slipping on the wet clay. It wasn't crashing through the landscape, it was floating across it. From towering cliffs to sudden floods, dinosaur footprints are often revealed when nature peels back the layers, and that's exactly what happened in Australia. In Western Australia's Kimberley region, the Red Earth tells stories, but only when it's ready. For decades, rumors circled about dinosaur tracks hidden in the remote coastal sandstone near Broome. Locals knew they existed, but for most of the year, they were submerged beneath the tides. Then came a period of extreme drought. As the waters pulled back, so did the curtain on what scientists now call one of the most diverse dinosaur track sites in the world. Stretched across miles of rock are at least 21 distinct types of footprints, left behind by everything from giant, long-necked sauropods to swift bird-like carnivores. Some of the prints are tiny, no bigger than a dinner plate, while others are massive, nearly as wide as a truck tire. The sheer variety of track shapes, sizes, and walking styles led researchers to nickname the area Australia's Jurassic Park. Unlike other track sites, these prints are preserved in ancient tidal flats where dinosaurs likely passed during migration or while foraging near shallow waters. The sediment here is soft enough to record details, toe claws, pad wrinkles, and even skin impressions, yet hard enough to preserve them for over 130 million years. It's a rare balance. One of the standout discoveries was a perfectly preserved sauropod trackway that stretches over 150 feet, with each step showing slight differences in angle and depth. This gave scientists rare insight into how the creature shifted its weight while walking, adjusting to the slippery surface beneath its feet. What's even more exciting is that this entire site was nearly lost, not to erosion, but to industrial development. Plans to build a natural gas hub nearby almost wiped out the trackways before they were fully studied. A last-minute intervention preserved the region, turning it into a protected site and giving the world a chance to see Australia's long-lost giants, step by step. And next we're off to Wales, where erosion didn't bury the past, it uncovered it, revealing dinosaur footprints on a beach that was never meant to be walked by humans. Not all fossil finds happen deep in deserts or high on cliffs. Sometimes they appear where you'd least expect, like under your feet during a walk on the beach. That's exactly what happened in Wales, along the coast near Penarth. After a series of strong tides and storms shifted layers of coastal sediment, a series of three-toed dinosaur footprints appeared on the rocks, delicate, crisp, and ancient. These tracks had been resting just beneath the surface for more than 200 million years. What's unique about these Welsh footprints isn't just their age, though they do date back to the early Jurassic. It's their setting. The impressions lie scattered across a tidal zone, meaning they're frequently submerged and then re-exposed, a cycle that paradoxically erodes and reveals at the same time. When visible, the prints offer rare evidence of early, small-bodied bipedal dinosaurs, possibly related to Coelophysis, moving quickly along muddy terrain. Many of the footprints appear grouped, hinting at behavior, maybe a small pack traveling together. Others overlap at strange angles, as if different individuals crossed the same ground hours or days apart. These aren't the tracks of slow giants but of quick, agile animals navigating a shoreline that looked very different from today. Scientists speculate they might have been hunting or even following retreating water to feed. The location also brings a strange sense of time travel. On a good day, beachgoers and fossil hunters now walk the same stretch of Earth that dinosaurs once paced in moonlight. Some locals even refer to them as ghost steps, and there's something oddly fitting about that. Ancient life, revealed only when the sea chooses to give up its secrets. But for a real contrast, we now head from the warm Welsh coast to the cold volcanic wilds of Alaska, where tracks are found not in sand or mud, but in ancient ash. Alaska isn't usually the first place that comes to mind when thinking of dinosaurs, but fossilized footprints found in the remote Aniakchak caldera challenge that idea completely. Located in a vast, rarely visited stretch of wilderness, this ancient volcanic basin was once the stage for a different kind of drama. Dinosaurs walking through freshly fallen ash near the edge of a long-extinct volcano. The most remarkable tracks found here belong to hadrosaurs, also known as duck-billed dinosaurs. The prints are deeply impressed in layers of compacted ash and fine sediment, remnants of volcanic events that took place over 70 million years ago. These weren't isolated steps either. Some trackways stretch for nearly 200 feet, winding across open ground that would have looked eerily empty and quiet. The environment was harsh, even then. Analysis of pollen and rock layers shows signs of a cold, wet climate, possibly bordering on what we'd now consider subarctic. That makes these prints especially valuable, showing that dinosaurs weren't just creatures of jungles and swamps. They adapted, they traveled. Some may have even migrated seasonally through colder regions, using paths like this one carved into volcanic ground. Interestingly, some of the footprints show signs of slippage, suggesting the ash may have still been loose or hot when the animals walked over it. This implies a narrow window, a perfect moment when geology and biology collided. If the ash had cooled too much, it wouldn't have preserved the prints. If the dinosaurs had arrived earlier, the surface may have been too unstable to hold a shape. The result? A prehistoric snapshot, unlike any other. And speaking of snapshots, China holds something far more crowded. A place where over 300 prints tell an entire story in one spot. In China's Sichuan province, an ancient riverbed turned stone holds one of the world's most extraordinary collections of dinosaur footprints. Locals call it a dance floor, and once you see it, it's easy to understand why. More than 300 distinct tracks are spread across a single sediment surface, crisscrossing in every direction, like rush hour traffic frozen in time. Discovered in recent years, this site is a treasure trove for scientists. The footprints range from small bird-like imprints to massive oval depressions made by long-necked sauropods. What's fascinating is the density, no long trails, just a concentrated area where dozens of animals were clearly walking, turning, and interacting in close proximity. This wasn't a migration path, it was more like a congregation point. Some paleontologists believe this may have been a social area, possibly a watering hole or a floodplain where herds gathered and predators lingered nearby. The overlapping tracks suggest a dynamic scene, large plant eaters trudging through sticky mud, lighter predators zipping between them, and juvenile dinosaurs following adults with shorter, hesitant steps. Even more impressive, the site preserves extremely fine details, including toe pads and claw scrapes. This allows scientists to distinguish between individuals of the same species, sometimes tracking how one specific dinosaur looped around and passed the same point more than once, a prehistoric version of pacing. Beyond science, there's a strange beauty to the place. Hundreds of lives intersecting on one patch of land, leaving behind a record not in words or bones, but in the subtle pressure of feet in mud. No wonder locals gave it such a poetic name. In Patagonia, the wind sweeps across dry hills and scrubland, but beneath the dust lies a scene frozen in the soft mud of the Cretaceous period. A place where giants and hunters once crossed the same patch of earth, within hours or even minutes of one another. Paleontologists uncovered a remarkable track site in La Rioja province that captured two very different stories at once. The steady, deep prints of a sauropod moving slowly across the ground, and just off to the side, smaller, sharper prints from a carnivorous theropod. These aren't speculative trails. The sauropod left behind a clear series of four-limbed impressions, massive and rounded, spaced far apart. Each step a testament to its scale. But the theropod's prints are narrow and three-toed, with claw marks digging into the edges, hinting at quick turns and sudden stops. The predator's path doesn't intersect directly, but it skirts close, curving around and following the same general direction. What does that mean? Some researchers believe this was more than coincidence. The spacing of the theropod prints suggests it was tracking, staying behind, perhaps keeping the sauropod in view. This wasn't an ambush, not yet, but it was close. The mud was thick enough to capture weight shifts, and in some prints the heel impressions deepen, showing where a dinosaur leaned or stumbled slightly. Even tail drag marks appear in the sediment, rare and precious clues to posture. It's like a chase scene paused mid-action. There's no sign of a struggle, no sudden chaos in the footprints, just quiet, eerie parallel lines etched into the ground. Predator and prey walking the same road, both unaware that their journey would outlast them by millions of years. In central India, near the town of Jabalpur, the ground tells a stranger story. One where fire and footsteps met. Long before the Deccan Traps became one of the largest volcanic provinces on Earth, this landscape was a shifting patchwork of forests, rivers, and lava flows. And at least once, just after a volcanic event cooled the Earth, a group of dinosaurs walked across a fresh bed of still warm ash. These tracks, now hardened into basalt-like rock, are among the few examples in the world where dinosaur footprints were preserved in volcanic material. Most fossils are found in sediment or mudstone, soft surfaces that compress and solidify over time. But here the dinosaurs left their marks in ash so fresh it was still pliable, yet firm enough to hold their shape. The best-known prints in this region come from both herbivorous and carnivorous dinosaurs. Some are wide and flat, with rounded toes, likely made by a group of titanosaurs. Others are narrow and more angular, left by theropods walking across the same surface shortly after. What's fascinating is that the prints suggest almost casual movement. No signs of panic, no sudden directional changes. It's as if the dinosaurs were completely unfazed by the recent volcanic activity. Scientists believe the lava had cooled just enough not to burn, but was still soft enough to take impressions. The equivalent of walking across freshly poured concrete. That balance had to last only a few hours, maybe even minutes. A slight shift in temperature and the prints would have disappeared forever. Today these fossils are baked into dark, almost black stone, creating a surreal contrast. Life preserved by the very force that usually destroys it. Fire didn't erase their steps, it immortalized them. On the Isle of Skye, where the cliffs rise into mist and ocean wind cuts through prehistoric stone, dinosaur tracks tell a story few people expected from this northern outpost. Known for its rugged beauty and Celtic legends, Skye also holds one of the UK's most significant Jurassic track sites, a place where sauropods and theropods once wandered together along tidal flats. The discovery wasn't dramatic at first. A paleontologist stumbled on the prints during low tide, where erosion had peeled back a rock layer to reveal massive, rounded footprints, each about 2 feet across, arranged in loose, meandering trails. These were the steps of long-necked giants walking along the edge of a lagoon, possibly searching for food among mangroves and shallow water. What made the find more exciting was the presence of smaller, three-toed prints nearby. They weren't random, they moved in different directions, cutting between sauropod paths or curving back on themselves. Scientists quickly realized this was a rare snapshot of cohabitation. Two types of dinosaurs sharing the same ecosystem, moving across the same terrain. The track site also holds fine sedimentary layers, allowing for detailed analysis of the foot anatomy. Some of the impressions show skin textures, tiny bumps and ridges that hint at the animal's scale pattern. Others reveal how the foot sank unevenly, suggesting the ground was wet and squishy underfoot. Even more, the geology around the site paints a vivid picture of the time, a subtropical shoreline with volcanoes nearby, lush plant life and rising tides. The ocean was close, and danger may have been even closer. Yet these tracks speak of routine, creatures going about their day unaware they were leaving a permanent record behind. Bones show us the frame, but tracks show us the performance. They tell us what the dinosaur was doing, where it was going, how fast it moved, and whether it was alone or not. Footprints are not just leftovers, they're motion captured in stone, the closest thing we have to a living moment from millions of years ago. In some ways, tracks are more honest than fossils. A skeleton can be transported, crushed, jumbled, but a footprint stays exactly where it was made. It's not just what the dinosaur was, it's where it lived, what the terrain was like, even what the weather might have been that day. A shallow print in dry clay tells a different story than a deep one in wet mud. A narrow trail means something very different from a scatter of random steps. At sites like those in Texas, Bolivia, and China, the value of tracks goes far beyond just mapping movement. Scientists have used them to estimate body mass, reconstruct stride lengths, even detect limps or injuries. Some trackways show adults followed by smaller prints, likely juveniles, hinting at family behavior. In one case, tail drag suggested resting, while uneven depth pointed to stress or fleeing. Every detail is a clue. And let's be honest, there's something visceral about standing next to one. You don't just see the trace, you feel it. A footprint sunk into stone says, "I was here." No bones needed. In a world where we chase ancient life through fragmented skulls and fossil shards, these steps feel more immediate. They aren't silent like skeletons, they speak, they move, they go somewhere. They show us that the earth once pulsed beneath creatures whose weight shaped the very ground. And now, millions of years later, we follow their paths, not just to know them but to understand the world they left behind. Not frozen, not extinct, just paused, waiting to be read. The Mariana Trench, the deepest, darkest abyss on our planet, a place where sunlight never reaches, where pressure crushes anything unprepared. Down there in the silent black void, something moved. A deep-sea probe, lowered into the trench for research, captured the footage. At first, just another clip of the desolate seafloor. But then, a shadow. A massive, slow-moving form gliding just outside the probe's lights. The shape was too large, too deliberate. This wasn't some school of fish or drifting debris, it was a creature, a predator. The researchers who reviewed the footage were stunned. They analyzed the proportions, the movement. Whatever this thing was, it dwarfed a great white shark. The estimate? Over 50 feet long, possibly much more. The shape was unmistakably shark-like, but no known species reached that size today. There was only one shark in history that fit those dimensions: Megalodon. Experts examined the footage, but no official explanation was given. Some dismissed it as a technical glitch. Others whispered about classified research, about things lurking in the deep that weren't meant to be found. The Mariana Trench is vast, mostly unexplored. If something as monstrous as Megalodon had survived, there would be no better hiding place. And then came the stories. Fishermen claiming to have seen monstrous silhouettes beneath their boats, strange sonar readings detecting moving objects far larger than any known creature. It was as if something had been disturbed, as if the deep had finally revealed one of its oldest, most terrifying secrets. A shocking discovery was made at dawn. A massive, lifeless creature washed up on the shore, unlike anything seen before. The worker who stumbled upon it managed to snap a few photos before men in biohazard suits arrived. The beast, clearly a shark, but altered, its eyes black and unnatural, its skin eerily smooth. Could it be Megalodon, changed by something unknown? Authorities moved fast, scrubbing the beach, erasing evidence. Why? What are they hiding? A bit later, we uncover the modifications that may have reshaped this ancient predator. In the meantime, let's move on to another find. It started with marine biologists off the coast of California, monitoring blue whales for migration patterns. What they found left them speechless. Deep gashes, massive curved bite marks carved into the thick skin of these ocean giants. No predator alive today should be capable of such damage. Great whites, too small. Orcas, their teeth don't match. Yet these wounds were fresh, some still bleeding, as if whatever attacked them was still out there, hunting. The size of the bite radius told a disturbing story. It lined up almost perfectly with what scientists had reconstructed from Megalodon jaws. That was impossible, wasn't it? Some dismissed it as old scars reopening, but that didn't explain the sheer depth of the wounds or the shredded blubber. Whatever did this had power far beyond any known predator. Speculation spread. Some said a rogue deep-sea shark, one undiscovered. Others whispered a darker possibility that Megalodon never left. Then came the sonar image from Australia's coast. A fishing vessel in the deep waters off Australia's east coast was scanning for tuna when their sonar returned something baffling. A shape appeared on the monitor, a vast moving mass nearly 3 times the size of their boat. It was no school of fish, no known marine animal. It moved with intention, its outline almost unmistakable. A giant shark. The crew barely had time to process what they were seeing before the object vanished, slipping into the abyss. Word spread fast. Experts analyzed the sonar image, some claiming it was merely a misinterpretation of deep-sea formations. Others weren't so sure. The outline bore a chilling resemblance to Megalodon's skeletal reconstructions. Could it have been a freak encounter with an unknown species, one that defies modern classification? If so, why does it keep vanishing before we can prove it? Some believe the deep holds more than we understand. And the next piece of evidence? A video that left experts speechless. Next, we examine the most mysterious deep-sea shark footage ever captured, one that might be the closest proof yet of something lurking beneath the waves. It started as a quiet discovery. A deep-sea fishing vessel, working off the coast of Australia, pulled up something that should not exist. A creature with rough prehistoric skin, eyes that reflected an unnatural light, and jagged serrated teeth curled in a way eerily similar to something from the distant past. The fishermen who caught it were shaken, refusing to speak publicly. Some say government officials arrived before the media could, confiscating the specimen and leaving behind only a handful of blurry images. But the real shock came later. Footage from an underwater submersible in the same region showed something else. A dark mass, moving slowly just outside the lights, too massive to be anything known. Its shape, unmistakably shark-like. But this wasn't a great white, nor any recorded deep-sea species. The proportions, the power in its movement, everything about it aligned with what paleontologists had reconstructed from megalodon fossils. If this was a megalodon, it wasn't the same as the one that ruled the oceans millions of years ago. This thing had changed, adapted, forced into the deep, where it could remain unseen, untouched, and undiscovered. Could this explain the unexplainable bite marks on whales? The strange sonar readings? If something this massive still lurks in the black depths, what else is down there, just beyond what our cameras can see? In 1976, the USS Stein, a U.S. Navy frigate, was on routine patrol in the Pacific when its sonar equipment malfunctioned. The crew assumed it was a technical issue. What they found when they examined the ship told a different story. The sonar dome, reinforced, built to withstand the pressures of the deep, was shredded. Not dented, not scratched, torn apart, huge gashes, deep slashes covered the surface filled with remnants of something strange. Hook-like structures embedded in the wounds, the kind only found in one known predator. Giant squid. But the size of the marks didn't match any squid on record. Marine biologists estimated that whatever did this was far larger than even the biggest known specimens. Some speculated an undiscovered species of deep-sea squid. Others believed it was something else entirely. An ancient predator of the abyss, still lurking, still hunting. A creature with the power to disable a Navy warship without ever being seen. If something that powerful could go unnoticed for so long, what else is out there? What else has survived, hidden in the uncharted blackness of the ocean? The deeper we go, the more we realize we don't know what's watching, and maybe, just maybe, it's something we thought had died out millions of years ago. It was supposed to be an ordinary day on the water. A group of Australian fishermen set out early, their boat slicing through the waves off the coast of New South Wales. The ocean was calm, the sky clear, until the shadow appeared beneath them. It was enormous, a moving darkness stretching longer than their entire boat, gliding just beneath the surface. The men froze. They had seen sharks before, but never this. One of them, an experienced fisherman who had spent decades at sea, swore it was over 100 feet long. The head alone was the size of a rowboat, the dorsal fin towering out of the water like a sail. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if aware of their presence. Then, in an instant, the ocean exploded. The monstrous creature flicked its tail, sending waves crashing against the boat. The men barely managed to steady themselves before it disappeared into the deep, leaving only churning water behind. Word spread fast, but few believed them. Scientists dismissed it as exaggeration, others claimed they had seen the same thing but were too afraid to speak. Some speculated that Megalodon never fully vanished, just retreated, slipping into the depths where no one could follow. The fishermen never went back to those waters, and for years local sailors whispered about the giant that still roamed beneath the waves. For something that supposedly vanished millions of years ago, Megalodon teeth keep showing up where they shouldn't. Off the coasts of North Carolina, California, and even the deep waters near Japan, divers and fossil hunters have pulled up massive razor-sharp teeth, some nearly 7 inches long. These aren't fragile fossils crumbling at the touch. Many have been found with surprisingly well-preserved enamel, raising questions scientists struggle to answer. Most Megalodon teeth discovered are fossilized millions of years old. But some seem far too fresh, their coloration, weight and condition not matching what should be expected from ancient relics. Some researchers claim this is due to shifting seafloors, unearthing teeth buried for ages. Others aren't convinced. Could it be that these teeth aren't just remnants of the past but signs of something still alive? A predator that never truly disappeared, just retreated into the deep, staying far from human reach? Of course, these are just theories, fascinating, chilling but unproven. There is no official evidence confirming Megalodon's survival. These finds, as intriguing as they are, remain unexplained, open to interpretation. But now let's imagine for a moment that it is true, that this colossal shark still prowls the ocean. What would have happened then? How would the world have changed? Let's speculate. The ocean today would be unrecognizable. If Megalodon had never gone extinct, if it had adapted and evolved, the world would be a very different place. This wouldn't be the same Megalodon that ruled the seas millions of years ago. It would have changed, forced to survive in a modern ocean filled with dangers it never faced before. Rising water temperatures, shifting food sources, and human interference would have shaped it into something new, something even more dangerous. A predator like Megalodon wouldn't remain in shallow waters where it could be easily spotted or hunted. It would have retreated into the depths, becoming something even more elusive, possibly larger, smarter, and more efficient. What would a Megalodon that had adapted to the deep ocean trenches look like? Over time, its eyes could have grown larger, adjusting to the eternal darkness of the abyss. Its body could have become sleeker, built for ambush instead of brute force. Maybe even its skin changed, darkening like that of deep-sea hunters, allowing it to move undetected beneath prey before striking. If it had modified itself to match its environment, the modern ocean would have no defense against it. Blue whales, currently the largest animals on Earth, could be nothing more than a food source, hunted in ways we've never imagined. Ships would disappear without a trace, mistaken for prey and dragged down into the abyss. If Megalodon evolved alongside humanity, it would have learned to avoid detection, staying just beyond our reach, hiding where no light penetrates. Could this explain the massive bite marks on whales? The strange sonar anomalies that move as if they are hunting? But what if we did find it? How would the world react? If sightings became frequent, it wouldn't be just a scientific curiosity, it would be a global crisis. Commercial fishing in any deep water would end overnight. Cargo ships carrying vital supplies would rethink their routes. The tourism industry, built around diving, surfing, and ocean exploration, would collapse as fear took hold. Governments might declare entire oceanic regions as restricted, designating them as Megalodon territories, if they even admitted it was real at all. And what about us? Would we try to study it, hunt it, capture it? If we pulled something like this into the light, what would we really be uncovering? Would we be revealing a survivor from prehistory, or something altogether different, something shaped by the abyss, something we aren't prepared to face? Of course, these are just theories, speculation, possibilities, nothing more. Science tells us Megalodon is long gone, extinct. Nothing remains of it except its teeth, scattered across the ocean floor. And yet, people keep seeing things. Strange shadows, bite marks that shouldn't exist, footage that never gets explained. Megalodon was not just a big shark. It was a colossus, a predator that dwarfed nearly everything in the ocean. Its size has been debated for decades, but researchers agree that it was one of the largest carnivorous fish ever to exist. Fossilized teeth and vertebrae provide clues, but without a complete skeleton, scientists rely on comparisons to modern sharks. The most accepted estimates place Megalodon at 50 to 60 feet long, with some outliers suggesting individuals could have reached over 65 feet. That's longer than a school bus, and at least 3 times the length of the largest great white sharks alive today. Size alone isn't what made Megalodon terrifying, its sheer bulk set it apart. A fully grown adult likely weighed between 50 to 70 tons, with some estimates reaching even higher. To put that into perspective, it was as heavy as a Boeing 737. Unlike the slender, torpedo-shaped great white, Megalodon was built like a living war machine, its body thick and powerful, designed to withstand the force of slamming into massive prey. Fossil evidence suggests Megalodon had a jaw width of nearly 10 feet, large enough to swallow two people standing side by side. With its immense frame and raw strength, it ruled the oceans with no real competition. Every other predator, even the largest marine reptiles of the past, would have been outmatched. There was nothing in the water that could challenge it. A predator of Megalodon's size needed a weapon powerful enough to take down massive prey, and its jaws were built for destruction. Its mouth stretched nearly 10 feet wide, capable of devouring a full-grown person in a single bite. But size wasn't everything. Its bite force was unmatched. Estimates suggest Megalodon's bite delivered up to 40,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, making it the most powerful bite of any known creature. For comparison, a great white shark bites with about 4,000 pounds of force, while a saltwater crocodile, one of the strongest biters alive today, reaches only 3,700 pounds. The structure of its teeth reveals even more about its hunting power. Each tooth was serrated like a saw blade, designed to slice through flesh and bone with ease. Unlike modern sharks, which lose and replace thousands of smaller teeth over their lifetime, Megalodon's teeth were enormous, with some reaching over 7 inches long. These weren't just tools for biting, they were built for crushing. Whale bones from Megalodon's time have been found with deep gashes and snapped ribs, clear evidence of a predator that didn't just kill its prey, it pulverized it. And Megalodon didn't waste energy chasing smaller fish, it went after the largest creatures in the ocean. Taking down prey that could grow over 50 feet long required more than just brute force. Megalodon wasn't a mindless killer, it was a strategic hunter. Fossil evidence suggests it preferred to ambush its targets, attacking from below where it couldn't be seen. Unlike great white sharks, which often target the softer underbelly of prey, Megalodon aimed for the fins and tails. A single devastating bite could cripple a whale, leaving it unable to escape. The shark would then wait for its prey to weaken before moving in for the final attack. This method of hunting allowed Megalodon to maximize energy efficiency, ensuring it could sustain its massive body. A single meal might have lasted for weeks. Some experts believe Megalodon even hunted in deep water, ambushing migrating whales as they traveled through ancient ocean pathways. Its dominance over marine ecosystems left little room for competition. Even smaller sharks would have been forced to scavenge its leftovers. With unmatched power, strategy, and control over the seas, Megalodon ruled without challenge. But where exactly did it roam? That answer lies in the fossilized teeth scattered across the world's coastlines. Megalodon's range was far greater than any shark alive today. Fossilized teeth have been found on nearly every continent, proving that this predator thrived in oceans across the world. Unlike some sharks that prefer specific water temperatures, Megalodon could adapt, but it favored warm, coastal waters. These regions were ideal for hunting large prey, especially whales, which migrated along predictable routes. The shark's presence was strongest in what is now the east coast of North and South America, Europe, Africa, and parts of Asia. Its remains are also found in the Pacific, with fossilized teeth discovered near Japan, Australia, and even off the west coast of North America. This suggests Megalodon had a vast hunting ground, tracking prey across long distances, much like modern great white sharks. Some evidence indicates it may have even ventured into shallower waters, where young megalodons could have been born and raised before heading into deeper hunting zones, but while its range was massive, it eventually vanished. The question is, why? What happened to the ocean's most dominant predator? For a shark that ruled the seas for millions of years, its disappearance remains one of the biggest marine mysteries. The leading theory points to climate change. Around 3.6 million years ago, global temperatures dropped, cooling the oceans and disrupting food sources. Many of the large whales Megalodon relied on for food began migrating to colder regions, places where the massive shark may have struggled to survive. With fewer meals available, even the biggest predator had limits. Another factor could have been competition. Around the same time, the ancestors of great white sharks were becoming more efficient hunters, able to thrive in cooler waters and possibly outcompete juvenile megalodons. Some scientists also believe the rise of Orchinus kitoniensis, an early relative of modern orcas, played a role. These smaller, intelligent predators may have hunted in packs, giving them an advantage over a single massive shark. Whether it was the loss of prey, changing ocean conditions, or competition, Megalodon vanished from the fossil record. But it left behind something incredible: its teeth, which still wash up on shores around the world. Unlike bones, which decay, Megalodon teeth fossilized, turning into rock-hard remnants of its past existence. That's why they are among the most common fossils found today. Most Megalodon teeth range from 3 to 5 inches, but the largest specimens exceed 7 inches. To put that into perspective, a great white shark's teeth rarely reach 3 inches. The largest Megalodon tooth ever found measures 7.48 inches, discovered in South Carolina, a hotspot for prehistoric shark teeth. Other massive teeth have been unearthed in Peru, North Carolina, and even the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. Each discovery helps scientists estimate the true size of the biggest megalodons. A tooth over 7 inches suggests a shark that could have reached over 60 feet long, possibly more. These teeth aren't just impressive, they provide a direct link to the past, proving just how enormous these predators were. But how would a megalodon compare to the ocean's top predator today? If it were alive, could it defeat a great white in a battle of giants? A megalodon and a great white shark would never be a fair fight. The size difference alone is overwhelming. A fully grown great white reaches about 20 feet long, while even a smaller megalodon doubled that length. The weight comparison is even more extreme. Megalodon could weigh up to 50 tons, making it at least 10 times heavier than a great white. Strength, size, and bite force all favor the prehistoric predator. However, bigger doesn't always mean better. Great white sharks are fast, agile, and highly intelligent hunters. They rely on stealth and speed to take down prey. Megalodon, despite its power, may not have been as quick or maneuverable. If the two ever encountered each other, the great white's only chance would be to avoid direct confrontation, much like modern sharks avoid killer whales. But in a battle of sheer force, Megalodon's bite strength, size, and hunting technique would have made it unbeatable. It wasn't just the largest shark, it was the ultimate predator of its time. Science has already brought extinct creatures back in small ways. DNA from mammoths, Neanderthals, even long-dead plants has been recovered and studied. But Megalodon? That's a different challenge. Unlike prehistoric mammals, which left behind frozen remains, all we have from Megalodon are fossilized teeth and vertebrae, solid rock with no recoverable DNA. Without genetic material, cloning a true Megalodon is impossible. But what if a breakthrough changed that? If, against all odds, we found preserved Megalodon DNA locked away in deep-sea sediment or frozen within ancient whale bones, the next step would be reconstruction. Scientists could attempt to fill in the missing genetic gaps using the DNA of its closest relatives like great white sharks. If successful, the world's deadliest predator would be reborn. The question is, should we? A modern Megalodon would not be the same as the one that ruled the oceans millions of years ago. The ecosystem is different. Prey has changed. The ocean itself is not what it used to be. A single Megalodon would need thousands of pounds of food per day, possibly driving some marine species to extinction. And if it didn't adapt to today's world, would it even survive? Perhaps the biggest risk isn't just bringing back Megalodon, it's what comes next. If we could resurrect a predator this massive, what else would follow? Would we be unlocking a new age of science or unleashing something we can't control? Some doors once opened can never be closed. The Jurassic seas were filled with monsters, but few were as terrifying as Dinosaurs. This marine reptile wasn't just another pliosaur or plesiosaur, it was something different. Nicknamed Godzilla by paleontologists, it had a massive, deep skull with serrated teeth that looked like they belonged to a land-dwelling predator. Unlike the sleek, needle-toothed killers of its time, Dinosaurs was built for brute force, biting down with devastating power. It stalked the oceans over 150 million years ago, a fearsome ambush predator lurking beneath the waves. With a body stretching up to 16 feet, it wasn't the biggest marine reptile, but its terrifying bite more than made up for it. This creature didn't just hunt fish. It could take down other marine reptiles, even ones nearly its own size. Its teeth, thick and jagged, worked like a shark's, tearing through flesh with ease. Unlike most of its kin, Dinosaurs had a short, compact snout, giving it an eerie resemblance to modern crocodiles. But this wasn't a sluggish ambush hunter waiting in the shallows. It was built for the open ocean, slicing through the water with its powerful tail. It could launch itself at prey with deadly precision, clamping its jaws down before its victim even had a chance to react. Fossil evidence suggests it had a massive bite force, rivaling some of the most powerful predators in history. Scientists believe it might have used a technique similar to killer whales, thrashing its head from side to side to rip massive chunks of flesh from its prey. Some of its closest relatives even had adaptations for echolocation, meaning these terrifying hunters may have stalked their prey in complete darkness, sensing them before striking from below. Long before dinosaurs ruled the earth, something else prowled the land. Something that looked like a terrifying mix between a reptile and a saber-toothed cat. This was Inostrancevia, one of the most fearsome predators of the Permian period. It wasn't a mammal, but it wasn't quite a reptile either. It belonged to a strange and ancient group called Gorgonopsids, early relatives of the creatures that would one day become mammals. But there was nothing warm and fuzzy about this thing. Stretching over 11 feet long, Inostrancevia was a true top predator, hunting down anything unlucky enough to cross its path. Its most terrifying feature? Two massive saber-like fangs that could rip through flesh with ease. Unlike big cats, which had to rely on sheer force, Inostrancevia had teeth designed for precision. These sabers could puncture deep into muscle and organs, ensuring that its prey didn't get far after a bite. And unlike later saber-toothed predators, it didn't have lips to cover its fangs, meaning they were always exposed, making it look even more nightmarish. But its teeth were just part of the horror. This creature had a powerful, almost dog-like skull, built to clamp down on prey with a crushing force. Its limbs were long and muscular, allowing it to move swiftly across the dry, barren landscapes of the late Permian. It didn't need to stalk its prey for long, it could run them down with brutal efficiency. The world Inostrancevia lived in was collapsing, with mass extinctions wiping out entire species. But for a brief period, it was the king of a dying world, the last great predator before disaster struck. If you think modern elephants are bizarre, prehistoric ones were on another level. Platybelodon looked like something out of a fantasy novel, with a long trunk and a pair of tusks, not on the sides of its mouth like a regular elephant, but fused into a flat, shovel-like structure. It was an elephant that traded brute strength for a tool designed to reshape the landscape. Roaming the grassy floodplains around 10 million years ago, Platybelodon wasn't a predator, but that didn't make it any less intimidating. Its mouth was like a living excavator, stripping bark off trees, cutting through tough vegetation, and even digging into mud for roots. Some scientists originally thought it used its tusks like a giant scoop, but more recent studies suggest it was a forest destroyer, ripping up entire sections of trees to get at the tastiest parts. If you saw a herd of these creatures moving through the landscape, they wouldn't just be eating, they would be reshaping the environment itself. Despite its odd looks, Platybelodon was a highly successful species, spreading across Africa, Europe, Asia, and North America. It had no need for massive fangs or claws. Its strength was in its numbers and its ability to dominate entire ecosystems. But as the world changed and grasslands replaced the dense forests it relied on, the shovel-tusked elephant disappeared forever, replaced by more modern elephant species. Millions of years ago, Australia was home to something far more terrifying than any modern predator, a giant venomous lizard that ruled the land with brute force. This was Megalania, the largest terrestrial lizard to ever walk the earth. It looked like an oversized Komodo dragon, but it was on an entirely different scale. Estimates suggest it could grow over 20 feet long and weigh more than 1,000 pounds, making it one of the top predators of its time. Everything about Megalania was built for killing. Its razor-sharp teeth were serrated like a shark's, allowing it to slice through flesh with ease. Its massive claws could tear into prey, leaving deep wounds that bled profusely. But its most terrifying weapon? Venom. Like its modern-day cousin, the Komodo dragon, Megalania is believed to have had venom glands in its mouth, delivering a toxic cocktail that prevented blood from clotting and sent victims into shock. Even if an animal escaped the initial attack, it wouldn't last long. This massive lizard hunted giant marsupials, birds, and even early humans who might have encountered it in prehistoric Australia. There was no running from it. Megalania was built for endurance, stalking its prey patiently before striking with overwhelming power. If one of these monsters was lurking in the underbrush, you wouldn't hear it until it was too late. But Megalania's reign eventually came to an end, possibly wiped out by changing climates or competition with early human hunters. Still, its closest relatives remain today. The Komodo dragon is a distant echo of this prehistoric beast, a reminder that the age of monstrous lizards isn't entirely over. But while Megalania ruled the land, Another nightmare was waiting in the depths of the ocean. Something far more massive, more powerful, and completely unstoppable. When people think of the deadliest predator of the Cretaceous, most imagine the T-Rex. But on the other side of the battle for survival, something even bigger ruled the seas. Mosasaurus was the undisputed apex predator of the prehistoric oceans, a reptilian titan that could grow over 50 feet long, larger than a modern great white shark. Unlike slow-moving marine reptiles of the past, Mosasaurus was built for speed and pure destruction. It had an elongated body powered by a massive tail, allowing it to torpedo through the water with terrifying efficiency. Its head alone was the size of a man, packed with razor-sharp teeth designed to crush bones and tear through flesh. Unlike sharks, it didn't just rely on a single row of teeth. It had a secondary set of teeth embedded in its throat, ensuring that anything unlucky enough to get caught in its jaws wasn't coming back out. This monster wasn't picky about its meals. It devoured fish, squid, marine reptiles, even other mosasaurs. Nothing was off-limits. Some fossil evidence suggests it even engaged in brutal fights with its own kind, with massive bite marks found on other mosasaurus skulls. If two of these giants clashed, the ocean would have churned with blood. Mosasaurus wasn't just big, it was relentless. Unlike many other prehistoric creatures that stuck to specific regions, mosasaurs spread across oceans worldwide, making them one of the most successful marine predators in history. If you were swimming in the Cretaceous seas, you wouldn't see it coming until its jaws closed around you. It was the true ruler of the ocean, dominating the waters up until the very end of the dinosaur age. Some prehistoric creatures were terrifying because of their size, their strength, or their ability to hunt with brutal efficiency. Telemonstrum, however, was terrifying for an entirely different reason. It was something that shouldn't exist. This strange, eel-like creature has puzzled scientists since its discovery, and even today, no one is completely sure what it was. It slithered through the murky waters of ancient swamps 300 million years ago, moving like a shadow, with a body that looks like it was stitched together from different animals. At first glance, it seems harmless. It was small, around a foot long, with a soft, flexible body. But then you see its head, or rather, its lack of one. Instead of a normal mouth, it had a long, thin trunk ending in a claw-like structure lined with sharp teeth. It used this nightmarish appendage to snatch unsuspecting prey, dragging them into its flexible maw. But that wasn't the only bizarre feature. Its eyes weren't even on its face. They sat on stalks extending from either side of its body, giving it an almost alien appearance. Telemonstrum is such an evolutionary mystery that scientists still debate what kind of creature it actually was. Some think it was a type of worm-like vertebrate. Others believe it was related to modern lampreys, jawless parasitic fish that latch onto victims and drink their blood. The truth, no one knows for certain, but what we do know is that for millions of years, this unsettling, otherworldly creature thrived in dark prehistoric waters, hunting, feeding, and lurking beneath the surface. As strange as Telemonstrum was, it wasn't alone in Earth's ancient swamps. These murky waters hid another monster, one that scuttled along the bottom, waiting to strike with venomous precision. It was armored, it was massive, and it was one of the largest arachnids to ever live. Before the world belonged to dinosaurs, and even before vertebrates took their first steps onto land, arthropods ruled the planet. And one of the most fearsome was Brontoscorpio, a scorpion the size of a house cat that hunted with the deadly efficiency of a modern predator. Unlike its smaller relatives, this wasn't a creature to be stepped on. It could reach nearly 3 feet in length, making it one of the largest scorpions to ever exist. Brontoscorpio lived around 420 million years ago, in a time when Earth's landmasses were mostly barren, and life thrived in the water. This massive scorpion was one of the first arachnids capable of living both in the sea and on land. Scientists believe it used its powerful pincers to snatch up smaller arthropods, fish, and anything else that got too close. But its most dangerous weapon? Its enormous, curved stinger. Unlike modern scorpions, which rely on stealth and venom, Brontoscorpio was heavily armored, covered in thick exoskeletal plates that made it a walking tank. Fossil evidence suggests it may have been one of the first creatures to develop primitive lungs, meaning it could crawl onto land for short periods. Imagine being one of the first fish to try venturing onto land, only to find a 3-foot-long scorpion waiting to strike. Brontoscorpio was one of the last of its kind before even larger and more terrifying arthropods evolved. Its world was one of giant insects, monstrous millipedes, and massive sea scorpions. a time when the deadliest creatures on the planet weren't dinosaurs or sharks, but insects and arachnids the size of dogs. Long after the age of dinosaurs, when mammals had begun to take over, one predator kept the ancient world locked in fear. Forus racos, one of the most fearsome terror birds, was a flightless killing machine that dominated South America around 10 million years ago. This creature was no slow, clumsy ostrich. It was a 7-foot-tall, 300-pound apex predator designed to chase down prey and tear it apart with a massive hooked beak. Unlike modern birds, Forus racos had long, powerful legs built for speed, capable of reaching over 30 miles per hour. It could easily outrun most of the mammals it hunted. Its attack strategy was brutal. It would sprint after its prey, using its sheer size to knock it off balance, then deliver devastating pecks with its sharp beak. The impact alone was enough to crush bones. Some scientists believe it could even grab smaller animals in its beak and slam them against the ground to finish the kill. Its skull was nearly 2 feet long, armed with a beak shaped like a meat hook. One bite could pierce flesh, break bones, or rip off chunks of meat in seconds. Forus racos wasn't just fast, it was relentless. Fossil evidence suggests that these birds were highly aggressive, capable of taking down prey almost their own size. Even early mammals had little defense against them. For millions of years, terror birds were the top land predators in South America, ruling over an isolated world where no large carnivorous mammals existed. But eventually, their reign came to an end. When the land bridge between North and South America formed, large predators like saber-toothed cats and dire wolves arrived, competing for the same food. The terror birds couldn't keep up, and their once thriving dynasty faded away. If crocodiles are scary today, Caprasuchus would have been the stuff of nightmares. Unlike modern crocs that lurk in rivers and swamps, this monster could sprint on land, chasing down prey like a predator straight out of a horror movie. And if that wasn't terrifying enough, it also had huge forward-facing fangs, like a cross between a crocodile and a wild boar. Caprasuchus lived around 95 million years ago. During the late Cretaceous, it was about 20 feet long, built with powerful limbs that could carry it onto land, unlike the mostly aquatic crocodiles of today. Fossil evidence suggests it was a fast, active hunter, capable of taking down large dinosaurs and anything else that got too close. While modern crocodiles rely on ambush tactics, waiting patiently in the water, Caprasuchus may have actively pursued its prey, running after it like a reptilian wolf. But its most terrifying feature was its saber-like teeth. These weren't just for crushing. They were built to slice through flesh, allowing it to hold on to struggling prey. Unlike the cone-shaped teeth of modern crocs, which are designed for gripping, Caprasuchus had huge, serrated fangs that could puncture deep wounds, making escape almost impossible. If something fell into its jaws, it wasn't getting back out. Caprasuchus lived in ancient wetlands, likely lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It didn't need to be the biggest predator in its ecosystem. Its speed, power, and terrifying bite made it one of the most dangerous. Imagine being a small dinosaur, wandering too close to the water's edge. One moment, everything is still. The next, a 20-foot reptilian nightmare is charging straight at you, jaws wide open. Its kind eventually disappeared, but crocodiles remained, evolving into the ambush hunters we know today. Caprasuchus may be gone, but its bloodline lives on. Before dinosaurs took over the Earth, Dimetrodon was the undisputed king of the land. This fearsome predator stalked ancient swamps and floodplains around 290 million years ago, long before the first dinosaurs ever walked the planet. Though often mistaken for a dinosaur, Dimetrodon was actually more closely related to mammals, but it had none of the warm-blooded traits we associate with them today. It was a cold-blooded killer, built for raw power and efficiency. Stretching up to 15 feet long, Dimetrodon was a top-tier predator that could take down anything in its path. Its head was massive, equipped with a powerful bone-crushing bite, but its teeth were what made it truly terrifying. Unlike many other reptiles of its time, it had two different types of teeth: sharp fangs for slicing meat and smaller ones for gripping struggling prey. This adaptation made it one of the first creatures in history to have a specialized, deadly bite. And then there was the sail on its back, one of the strangest features in prehistoric evolution. This massive spine structure has puzzled scientists for years. Some believe it helped regulate body temperature, allowing Dimetrodon to warm up quickly in the sun, giving it an early hunting advantage. Others think it was used for intimidation or attracting mates. Whatever the purpose, it made Dimetrodon look even more monstrous, like a reptilian nightmare stalking the ancient landscape. For millions of years, Dimetrodon ruled unchallenged, dominating a world filled with giant amphibians and strange primitive reptiles. But eventually, its reign ended, as the Earth changed, paving the way for an entirely new kind of predator, one bigger, stronger, and unlike anything that had come before. When dinosaurs finally emerged, some of them would grow larger than any land predator before them. One of these giants would take hunting to an entirely new level, not just ruling the land but dominating both water and shore, like a living crocodile from hell. If dinosaurs had a monster that blurred the line between land and water, Spinosaurus was it. Over 50 feet long and weighing more than 7 tons, it wasn't just the largest carnivorous dinosaur ever discovered, it was something completely unique. While other predators like T-Rex relied on raw power, Spinosaurus was a specialized killer, built to dominate prehistoric rivers and lakes. Its skull was long and narrow, more like a crocodile's than a typical theropod's. Inside were conical teeth designed to pierce and hold onto slippery prey, perfect for snatching up massive fish and even small dinosaurs that wandered too close to the water. Some evidence suggests Spinosaurus may have had pressure-sensitive snouts, allowing it to detect movement underwater, just like modern crocodiles. That meant anything swimming nearby was doomed before it even realized what was happening. But the strangest feature of Spinosaurus was its massive sail-like structure rising from its back. Some scientists think it helped with thermoregulation, displaying dominance or even acting as a stabilizer for swimming. Unlike other large theropods that hunted on land, Spinosaurus was semi-aquatic, built to wade through rivers, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Its powerful arms, tipped with massive claws, could rip apart prey with ease. Unlike T-Rex, which relied on its bite, Spinosaurus had the strength to pull down prey using its forelimbs, making it even deadlier. But what made it truly terrifying was its sheer versatility. It wasn't restricted to land like most theropods, and it wasn't fully bound to the water like a marine reptile. It ruled both, giving it an unmatched advantage over its environment. In a world before saber-toothed cats and dire wolves, Andrewsarchus was the undisputed heavyweight of mammalian predators. Roughly the size of a modern rhino, this beast roamed the plains of Eocene Asia around 45 million years ago, hunting, scavenging, and crushing anything unfortunate enough to stand in its way. It wasn't quite a wolf, not a bear, and not a big cat, yet it had the terrifying traits of all three combined. Its most fearsome weapon was its skull, which measured nearly 3 feet long, making it one of the largest carnivorous land mammal skulls ever discovered. Packed inside that skull were bone-crushing jaws, capable of snapping through thick bones with ease. Some scientists believe Andrewsarchus was an active predator, while others suggest it was more of a scavenger, using its massive bite to crack open carcasses and steal kills from other hunters. Either way, it was built for power, and nothing in its environment could challenge it. Despite its wolf-like appearance, Andrewsarchus wasn't related to canines at all. In fact, its closest living relatives are whales and hippos, which makes imagining this beast even more bizarre. It's as if nature tried to create a land-dwelling version of an orca, a relentless carnivore with an unstoppable bite. Australia's prehistoric past was filled with bizarre, dangerous creatures, but none were as terrifying as Thylacoleo, the marsupial lion. Despite its name, it wasn't a lion at all, but an ancient relative of wombats and koalas. Except this relative didn't eat leaves. It hunted, ambushed, and killed with the efficiency of a modern big cat. Living up to 46,000 years ago, Thylacoleo was the apex predator of Ice Age Australia. It wasn't particularly fast, but it didn't need to be. It had short, powerful limbs built for ambush attacks, launching itself at prey with overwhelming force. Its bite was one of the strongest, pound for pound, of any mammal to ever live, capable of shearing through flesh and bone with ease. Unlike big cats, which have long canine teeth, Thylacoleo's front teeth were more like massive shearing blades, designed to slice through muscle in one swift motion. Its semi-opposable thumbs were armed with enormous claws, giving it a grip so strong that once it latched onto its prey, escape was impossible. Some researchers believe it may have even climbed trees and ambushed from above, making it an absolute nightmare for anything that crossed its path. Long after giant amphibians had vanished from most of the world, Koolasuchus was still thriving. This massive, salamander-like predator lived in the rivers of Australia 120 million years ago, sharing its world with dinosaurs yet remaining an evolutionary relic from an even older time. Koolasuchus wasn't just big, it was monstrous, growing up to 15 feet long and weighing over 1,000 pounds. It resembled an oversized salamander with a wide, flat skull and a mouth filled with rows of sharp, gripping teeth. Unlike modern amphibians, which mostly hunt insects, Koolasuchus was built to take down much larger prey, ambushing fish, reptiles, and anything that wandered too close to the water's edge. It thrived in the cold, fast-moving rivers of Cretaceous Australia, a habitat where dinosaurs like Spinosaurus and larger crocodiles hadn't yet spread. This allowed Koolasuchus to remain an apex predator, surviving long after most of its kind had disappeared. It was a true prehistoric holdover, a monster from the Paleozoic lurking in a world of dinosaurs, but its time eventually ran out. As the climate warmed and crocodiles moved into its territory, Koolasuchus faded into extinction, unable to compete with the newer, faster predators. That's about it. Write in the comments which prehistoric animal scared you the most. For more useful information, watch other videos.